Today I'll talk about feeding devices and foraging strategies. The picture at the front here is a dragonfly larvae with that mask. You can really see that mask in those mandibles and the jagged, the jagged teeth on the mandibles of the mask. So we're going to basically organize this lecture around what are called functional feeding groups. Even though most aquatic insects are polyphagous, meaning that they eat many things, we still tend to organize them into these different groups. And so there's a wide variety of mouth parts and shapes that insects use and that allows them to feed in different ways. So functional feeding groups, or FFGs, are based on both how food is acquired and the nature of the food. So an organism could be a predator, it could be a parasite, it could be a shredder, or what's called a xylophage, someone that eats wood, an algal piercer or burster, a grazer or scraper, a collector gatherer, or a collector filterer, which is a filter feeder. And as you move downstream from the headwaters to the lower reaches of a river, there are shifts in the percentages of these different feeding groups that you'll find in a community. And we'll talk about that more. So the different types of food that aquatic insects might eat are animal prey, large plants, macrophytes and mosses, phytoplankton, attached biofilms like periphyton, detritus and other organic matter, and eggs. So if you're an egg eater, you are exhibiting ophagy. Very few aquatic insects are specialist carrion feeders. Most attack live prey if they're predators, but many will scavenge on carcasses when they're available. Grazers and collector filterers, collector gatherers, and predators will all scavenge on carcasses. Foraging cannibalism is common, but only under suboptimal conditions. So typically that cannibalism only occurs under really strained environmental conditions, and so tends to not have a selective effect. A lot of organisms like this weevil, you can see here, can control the populations of its prey item. So in this case, the prey is a plant. So this is an herbivore. And this little weevil is used as a biocontrol to control salvinia, which kind of chokes waterways in parts of the world. So then I'm going to talk about the difference between phytoplankton, which are algal cells that float in the water column, versus periphyton, which is kind of a combination of algae, fungi, and bacteria growing on the surface of rocks. And the differences in terms of who eats what. So in general, crustaceans like zooplankton are really great at consuming phytoplankton from the water column. And there's a few insects that will do that. For the most part, in contrast, you see more aquatic insects consuming periphyton and filamentous algae from the benthos, from the bottom of a stream. And then there's detritus, which is organic material. Some of the earliest true insects likely fed on detritus. It was probably widely available. And there are very few xylophagous insects in aquatic systems that directly feed on wood, but there are a few of them. We call coarse particulate organic matter, or we call that CPOM, when it's greater than 1 millimeter in size. And we call it fine particulate organic matter, or FPOM, if it's less than 1 millimeter in size. You can kind of see some CPOM at the top there and some FPOM down below with the little mosquito larvae. Dead leaves, wood, feces, and the microbes that grow on all of them make up this detrital pool for detritivores. Okay, moving on to predators. Again, there's that nice odonata with its specialized mask that allows it to capture and engulf large prey items. So predators attack and consume animal prey when the prey is alive. Some folks include herbivory as a form of predation, but we're going to keep it separate. I think it's kind of confusing, but you will hear that sometimes. Most insect predators are partially omnivorous, meaning that they will scavenge and they'll sometimes eat detritus too. And there's two ways to be a predator in the aquatic insect world. You can either be an engulfer, a predator engulfer, or a predator piercer. And there's two ways to basically hunt. One would be through active foraging, so like chasing down your prey items, swimming after them. And the other would be an ambush or a sit and wait predator, kind of building a structure or hiding somehow, waiting for prey to pass by you. So first of all, the engulfers, they tend to have mandibles that are modified for grasping and tearing prey. And they also have little maxillae that help to transport the prey then into the mouth. Some predators will eat all of the soft body parts and then expel the head or spit it out, or they'll spit out other heavily sclerotized body parts. And for predators, their mandibles are typically sickle-shaped with very sharp teeth that help to kind of tear things apart. Mandibles can be either symmetrical, meaning they're the same on both sides, or asymmetrical. And so you can see some really cool things like predators that tend to feed on snails will have asymmetrical mandibles to try to help them get inside either a right-handed or a left-handed snail. So you can kind of tell what kind of snail they feed on based on the shape of their mandibles. So again, when we talked about snails, they have a chirality to them. They're either right-handed or left-handed based on where their opening is. And so their predators have kind of matching chirality with their mandibles. And then there are some predators that can inject poison through their mandibles. Some coleopteran beetle larvae in the family Gyrinidae can inject poison through grooves in their mandibles. So here's these two pictures too. I just want to thank Jan Hammerski for some of the amazing photographs. They have a really nice webpage with really awesome photographs. All right, then you can still be a predator engulfer and you might capture your prey in other ways. So you might not have these big scary mandibles or masks to reach out and grab things. This is the net spinning caddisfly Polycentropotidae, and it and another family of caddisflies, the Actinomidae, use nets to capture prey. So these nets are just kind of sitting out in the stream and things get funneled into them. And the little caddisfly is waiting at the bottom of the net. And when something comes in, they will engulf the prey. So they're not exactly filter feeding particles. They're more like trapping organisms. So they're technically called ambush predators that hide in their tube. And they're alerted to the prey presence by silken threads, just like spiders. And there's some really cool research showing that the size of the net opening is inversely related to the water velocity. So they have to have a bigger net opening if the water's moving really slow, and they have a smaller net opening if it's the water's moving really fast. And if they get full, they can just kind of like spin out some silk and attach their prey to the inside of the net and wait until they get hungry again. Okay, so the other way to be a predator is to be a piercer. So primarily Neuroptera, Coleoptera, and Hemipterans are piercing predators. The Neuropterans, there's in the top there, that image is an organism in the family Osmilidae. I've never seen one of these, but they look really cool. What look like antennae coming out of the front are actually really long, slender jaws that they poke into their prey, and they inject poison that paralyzes the prey, and then they suck the contents out of those long, slender jaws. There's also the spongilliflies in the family Ciceridae that feed on freshwater sponges, also using long, piercing mouth parts. And this Coleoptera, this beetle larva, Dyticidae, has sucking or suctorial mandibles with grooves along the edges. So it bites in and then it can suck through these grooves in the mandibles. Most of these organisms participate in what's called extraoral digestion. So they're not digesting their prey in their body or in their mouth or their stomach. They're actually doing it outside of their mouths, outside of their bodies, by pumping some kind of like toxin in that kind of liquefies their prey, and then they suck it back out. Kind of gross, like a smoothie. There's a really great quote from the Pilgrim at Tinker Creek, and I'll post another little video with, or I'll just post the quote, but it's a really great kind of few paragraphs that talk about piercing predators. So most hemipterans are also piercing predators, and I just wanted to try to explain how their mouth parts work a little bit. So looking at it from the front, it just looks like a proboscis, like a pointy, like sucky tube, but it's actually that what you're seeing mostly is the lower lip that's been kind of like formed into a trough. And then these stylets, which basically are these tubes, and they're kind of open. And then when they go put together, they make two basically pipes. So you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, the 4 stylets when they're open versus when they're together. When they're together, they can use the channel that's numbered 3 to suck things out, and the channel number 4 for pumping saliva into the organism. And so they pump their saliva in, it kind of digests the animal from the inside, and then they suck the liquids out. And so what you can see is that they have this modified labium, the bottom lip, that makes this trough. And then the mandible the mandible and the maxilla are modified into these long stylets that when put together form this hose, or these 2 hoses. So anyway, really super complicated mouth parts for the piercing predators. Oops. I thought I had a picture. Oh, here we go. They're just out of order. Here's a picture of some piercing predators. Again, these hemipterans can prey on fish, on snakes, and on frogs. And I think I posted a video link at the bottom of the page if you want to watch them eat a fish. Okay, going back. So you can also, a lot of organisms that are predators will have raptorial or prehensile appendages, meaning that they can grasp things. And so the picture on the far right shows a grasping antenna. And so its antenna have been modified almost into like an excavator, you know, like it can like grab, this is the chowboard, it can grab things using its antenna like that. And then in some insects, they modify so all they have is like a claw, right? But if they build something like this, then their claw can become a pincher, basically, like it can grab things. So that's called a chelated foreleg. So you can see that the Hydrobiosidae, which is a type of Trichopteran, has this chelated foreleg that allows it to pinch and grab things. Similarly, the water scorpion shown on the far left has these raptorial forelegs that it can grab things with. And then right now you can see it's got its proboscis like skewered all the way through a mosquito larvae. Yeah, so some pretty scary predators in the underworld. All right.